Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Extreme Improv XStreamed World Championship Festival 2021, and a very exciting day of guest shows and tournament shows and all sorts of goodness will be continuing presently. Earlier on today we had Creating Extreme Humour with myself and Asad Khan. If you haven't seen it, go over to youtube.com/extreme improv and you can see the replay. Later on tonight at 8 PM we will have the sixth quarterfinal round in the Extreme Improv XStreamed World Championship Tournament. But for now, I'm very excited to present to you A Wizard Did It. The stage is now yours.
I am summoned by generic fantasy music, magnificent. What? Where am I? What mystical land? What sinister plot? What aging mattress? What's that in my flat? Hey, wait, what? Where am I? I'm here. I've come. I see you monkeys and your little peoples and your strangely hairy hands. You all gathered before me in the dark. Greetings one and all. Hello. I'm known only as the Wizard. I tried gabbing for a while, but he called the police, so I packed that in. Yes, I am the Wizard, and I have come from many other mystical realms. I've come across hill, across dale, and I've come through gateways, across bridges, and then on Southwest trains, and I've come here to tell you all tonight a story. As you can tell, I am definitely, without any shadow of a doubt, a wizard, thanks to my sweet hat there and my voluminous beard, which I forgot to bring. It's fine, shut up, it's fine. Yes, so I've come here to tell you a story, which is an ancient and mystical story that we all definitely know. None of it will involve me making shit up off the top of my head at all. But as I've already established in my character brief, I am enormously old as balls, so I can't really remember. I'm going to back off a little. There you go, get the hat in there, lovely. I can't quite remember the details of this story that we all definitely know, and we've all learned since we were suckled at our mother's teats. This story that I can't quite remember, so I would like your help in reminding me of the basics of the story, of giving me some pointers as to where to start, and then if you're dwelling in the mystical, ethereal realm known as chat, and you would like to give me some suggestions, I can start the story, and then as we go along, I will get some more suggestions as we continue. Please do chip in along the way, because anything to feel that I'm not just screaming into the silent void. I have done that too many times in my travels, I can tell you. So yes, so we're going to start the story now, and I will, to begin, I think I would like three things. One, I would like a season. What season of the year should this story begin in? Don't make anyone's up for yourself, like pig season or whatever, because that is a noble and ancient season, but it's not one of the major ones. What are the major ones? And also the name of the character that we shall begin with. A name, anything you like. Stop anything. It can be anachronistic, it can be whatever you like, just a name of the hero. And finally, the opening words of the story, the opening sentence, or a piece of speech, or something that, you know, the beginning of the story, the opening words. Quite simply, I'm overthinking this shit. I'm doing a bit of light fall. Well, how dare you, sir? Whoever put that in? I cannot fall. Gandalf went for falling, and he was like a B-list wizard. I'm not going to stoop to that level, so I'm going to pretend you didn't say fall, and I'm just going to imagine that the season you suggested is the autumn. That would be the autumn that we have in this country, or indeed any civilized country throughout history. That's nearly 1/8 of the audience gone right there. Well, that's standard for me. So I'm going to start in the autumn, and I believe a name that appeared in the chat was Ungin Biabingu. Onion the Ambiguous, which is almost the best thing I've literally ever heard, and I'm old as balls. And finally, yes, the first line of the story, which has just appeared out of the ether, is, I'm just going to check what that was. I missed it slightly. Okay, it's yes, I've got it. Yes, the first line of the story is, I've lost my wrench. Which, as you can see, it would almost be impossible for any story starting with that line to be a cack-handed piece of long-form improv. But we're going to see what happens. Okay. I've lost my wrench, thought Onion the Ambiguous, to start with the obvious, go as the main character, as he lurched out of a drunken stupor and washed up upon the shores of consciousness in his tiny lighthouse dwelling on the island of Shumi Palumi, which was off the coast of Dorset there. Onion had recovered from a night of boozing and backgammon and an inordinate amount of bird watching, and he was in a terrible state. And upon waking in his little lighthouse apartment, he automatically, as we all do who has not done this, who has not woken up and done this, he felt around his person to see if he had a wrench on him. Because, standard. I mean, any one of us, I know I have woken up in the morning and immediately had to apply get work to the internal mechanics of some devilish machine. And who doesn't need a wrench when you wake up in the morning? So he'd lost his wrench. And the pivotal thing about this, the part at which the emotional content, which is a bit of long form you need to stick in, the emotional content here was relevant, is that his wrench had belonged to his uncle Gillespie, who had drowned the cats of Berwick and swam upon the shores of Cambridge. This literally, he swam upon, I'm not going to let myself get away with that, he swam upon the shores. He would descend to the banks of the river and attempt to burrow physically through the sands and the very painful sharp stones upon the beach. And so Onion the Ambiguous had inherited this tradition, and so his face was a god-awful accumulation of cuts. And that's why he lived in a lighthouse. You see, it's all coming together. It's an ancient story, ancient and very, very logically consistent story. And so Onion the Ambiguous was aghast. He was appalled, and he was slightly miffed to discover that he didn't have this wrench upon him. He didn't actually have that much to do with the wrench, except administer to the internal workings of the lighthouse. But the wrench, as we established, has a great deal of emotional consequence for him. So he fell out of bed, crawled across the fetid, dirty boards of his lighthouse garret, and opened the door onto the rickety, spiraling metal stairwell that descended down to the base of the lighthouse, establishing the geography here, base of the lighthouse, and then the little causeway that ran up onto the mainland. The sky was overcast, and it was a bit of a chill in the air, and leaves, not just leaves, but human beings were literally falling out of the sky, because it was not only autumn, as it would be rude to throw away suggesting, it was not only autumn, it was also fall, literally fall. People, he said, people were literally cascading out of the heavens. They were all merely creations of some ancient being, which had been brought into existence merely to perpetuate a weak ongoing joke. And so they didn't have any consciousness or innate humanity about them. They were just like essentially human-sized flesh sacks. and they were just falling out of the sky because that's what happened in fall in this particular land. I'm starting to compare parts of it to what would be called England later on, but clearly there's some parts of this world that are batshit crazy. So this stuff was just these horrible forms were just descending out of the heavens. And Onion, known as Onion and the Ambiguous to his friends, because whenever they asked him to buy a round of drinks, he would go, I don't know. Onion the Ambiguous clambered down the stairwell and set off across the causeway, because if you've lost a wrench that you only keep in your lighthouse, the only place that it could possibly be would be outside your lighthouse. That's just standard thinking. But Onion the Ambiguous was super hungover still, and not in the best state. So he lurched down the stairwell and staggered catastrophically and almost very queasily. Sorry about that. Queasily across the causeway, and made his way up through the fields into the fields and across the rough-hewn track which led up to the tiny village of Salome Palumi, which might have been slightly different to the name of the lighthouse that I've just established earlier on, but then names do corrupt and change as the geography meanders. So it's definitely Salome Palumi, the village. And he came into the town square, where a great many of the people were gathered, talking and going rhubarb, 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 and all the other things that gatherings of stereotypical peasants typically say. But there was one particular subject that caught the nub of their interest. And would anyone like to suggest in the chat what subject the people of the village were talking about? What was occupying their minds when Onion the Ambiguous came to visit them? It might be just what they'd had for dinner, or it might be them talking about the people falling out of the sky. That would not be a small topic of conversation if that actually happened in the place where you lived. So would anyone like to suggest any subject, anything at all that they were talking about? They were talking about, we've got something here. Holy God, it went dark. We've gone dark. We've gone dark. They were talking about murder and conspiracy. They were talking about whether they should commit a murder and then cover it up with a conspiracy, or engage in a conspiracy, which would inevitably lead to some kind of physical or societal murder. And so they were basically they were indulging the fetish of almost all conspiracy theorists around the world, which is they felt inadequate and bored. And they didn't have a lot to do in Salome Palumi. They didn't have a post office. The cinema release of Black Widow had been put off, a couple more weeks, and all was just terribly tedious around there. So they were trying to find something a conspiracy they could sink their teeth into. And Onion the Ambiguous lurched up the path. He was still lurching. He had one trick, and so he was damn well he was going to do it. And he lurched up the path in his dark turquoise raincoat, and staggered into the middle of the village. Slightly queasily again, sorry about that, it's a running thing. Staggered into the middle of the village and screamed, "Where's my wrench?" to everyone surrounded him. And as you can imagine, their imaginations, the imaginations of the people of the village, they are lighted upon this. Where could the wrench be? I mean, obviously, as I've mentioned, when you just live in a lighthouse and you drop a wrench, the wrench is going to be in the lighthouse. But that wasn't good enough for the conspiracy-minded villagers. The truth was indeed out there. And so they grabbed Onion and took him into the center of the village, dodging the falling corpses that were still, dropping. Well, they weren't corpses. They'd never been alive. They were meat sacks, dropping the things as they fell horribly out of the sky. And they dragged him through the mud up onto the base of what was in the center of the village, center of the town square, which was a a horrible throne with a symbol atop it. Now, could anyone remind me in the chat, the story that we all know, could anyone remind me what the symbol was? It could be anything. It could be like an animal, or it could be like a shape, or it could be anything you like. What kind of, describe it in any way you like. And they dragged him, as you think about that, they dragged him to this form, and he feebly tried to call out, I just want my wrench. I just want my wrench. But they ignored him because they were gripped in the throes of cult thinking. And so they dragged him and they pulled him up to the base of the throne, and they threw him down there, and then they gave him the dead leg, and holy crap on a stick. I've just got a suggestion. Oh yeah, they gave him a dead leg and they kicked him in the shins, just to encourage him to get up on the throne. And the throne he didn't want to get up there because the throne was quite a, we've had it more. Okay, the throne was, you people, why do I come to this world? The throne was very complicated by this point, very complicated image. It was of a goddess with 9 legs, count the legs, 9 legs and 6 breasts. Because that's what you get up to, isn't it? I was saying you're in an ethereal realm in the chat. You're kind of like a demonic realm, aren't you? There's no sin that doesn't go sated in you with you people. Okay, a goddess with lots of legs and boobs, and also we just had added, because that's not enough. Apparently, that's not enough. We added a large magic mushroom, which was the prerequisite for seeing a goddess with 9 legs and 6 boobs. And so they dragged him up and they stuck him on the throne. And Onion the Ambiguous felt that he couldn't live up to this legacy, this mystical statue, which may or may not be explained at any point in this story. It could be like a Cthulhu-esque, a Lovecraftian holdover, which is sat in a village while everyone built their houses around it. It may be explained, it may not. So he felt that he couldn't live up to this. He wasn't enough of a man. He was just a stock character in a long form comedy story, and so he felt he didn't have enough in him to live up to such a complicated gift by the audience. And so, for the first time in his life, he found within himself. He found the gift to not be ambiguous, to be straightforward and clear-cut in what the hell he was talking about. And he threw off the arms of the people, and he shooed away the people kicking at his shins, and he stood up on both legs, because he was lurching for a while before, because he was hopping. He was on one leg, but he now stood on 2 legs, and he cried, I am not your mushroom. I am not your overly endowed goddess. I am but a man. I am but a tiny shriveled munchroom. And all I want is my grandpa's wrench. And his arms fell despondently to his sides. And he felt in the pockets of his robe, which he had underneath the dark red raincoat, and his hands, which had frantically passed around the outside of his raincoat in his earlier panic, but had not gone to the inner pockets, found a lengthy metal implement. And he pulled it out, and it was a remote control, so he knew where that had gone to. But he reached in the other pocket, and in there was a wrench. And it was a mystical wrench, which somehow had just been used to do machinery, because as we've established, this is a part of the world where ancient wonders are just they're not used, they're just used to do basic things, or they're used to put drunk people on in the middle of a village. It was a mystical wrench, but it was, even though he did not understand it, he knew the importance that it held to him in his heart, and how the whole escapade had been facilitated him learning to be less ambiguous. And he stood up, glad and relieved, and decided to make his way out of the village. But he was, as we've established, already surrounded by a bunch of cult nutters, and that wasn't good enough for them, so they tore him to pieces and threw him in the sea. The end. Thank you very much. That's the end of the story. Wait. Well, you asked for that story. You put goddess into it. You put drugs into it. You made it dark. It's down to you. So thank you very much. So that's the end of the story. And now, to facilitate my further punishment by society, I feel we should now move on to what we've arranged, which is a little bit of a publicity tour, a little bit of a Q&A session with any journalists who wish to enter the room, because I've been sent an awful lot of questions by my fans, all the fans. If you're here, my fan, Beryl in Cambridge, if you're here, then thanks. Anyway, yes, we have oh, good God. Enough. There's so many of you. Oh, God, there's a great horde of journalists. So I'm just going to go pick one of you. Yes, there's a horde of you. They're all standing there. So I'm just going to pick one. And any questions you would like to ask me about my life or the story, please. Yes, okay. The gentleman there with his hand up. Yes, the one amongst many, many other people. The one gentleman there. Yes, hello. Ooh, is there hello, can I hear you?
Hello, yes, sorry.
Hello.
I get quite nervous sometimes. I don't know why. I should be used to these by now.
Anyone listening to the story today would have probably preferred me to be silent at some point. So you're just following in my footsteps. Yes.
Okay, well, my name's Broom Constantine. I'm from the Daily Cauldron. I just wanted to know, and a lot of my readers do, how do you unwind at night?
How do I unwind? Well,
yes.
Lovely question. Well, do you know, I often kick back and listen to the 80s radio version of The Lord of the Rings, which is an underrated classic, obviously. And I also unwind the many venomous snakes that gather around my bedroom, and I put them in a bin marked "Get the fuck out, snakes." It's a very sweary bin, but you know, that's just what I have as a wizard. And I also like to touch myself. Any other questions? Would anyone else? Any other questions? You there, the gentleman over there in the with the hair in the face.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Broom Constantine, Daily Cauldron.
Good God. What wonders and coincidences will never cease.
I just so we had a story there, a lot of sort of wrench-based and sort of conspiracies, full of cults and all sorts. Do you have a favourite conspiracy theory at all?
I do. I have to admit it. I am a stickler, and I'm a true devout believer in one particular conspiracy, and that is that you never find any golden syrup flavored porridge pops in your local supermarket for a reason. They're always the manky, disgusting, sinful, normal oaty pops. You never find the nice golden syrupy ones, and that's because they were removed at the dawn of time and thrown into a pit next to all the copies of the Diary of Adrian Mole. That's a throwback.
Is that true, or is that a conspiracy, though?
It's almost entirely true, and I'm sure if it wasn't, any number of the people standing around you right now would be able to argue. They're all there. It's definitely not just you there at all. Yes. Anyway, any other questions?
And I just want to know what's happened to the magical island of Salome.
I'm sorry, you've had your time.
Okay,
had your time. I have to move on to someone else. The gentleman with the hair and the face. The other gentleman with the hair and the nice face.
We all look alike.
Yeah.
I just want to know, where is Salome Palumi now? Magical island of...
Yes. Where is it now? It is a very, very appropriate way to describe it, for it it has long been submerged by the deadly seas. Everybody who lived within it slowly came to realize that they were very limited creatures existing only in a piece of ham-fisted long-form narrative improv. And so they as soon as they discovered this, they very quickly lost the will to live, and then hacked away at the ropes that were holding Salome Palumi to the rest of the mainland, and the whole shebang just crumbled into the eternal depths.
I have a follow-up question.
Very bad Saturday. Yes.
Have you ever joined a cult?
Have I ever joined a cult?
Yes.
What other than improv? Lols. Anyway, no. Have I ever joined a cult? No. I feel my powers, which are actual magic, like super magic powers, actual magic powers, would be too obvious and on the nose for any cult members. They tend to like the prevailing psychology involves tending to like things that are forever just over the horizon, never actually going to appear, and which you can invoke at any point to exert societal control over your fellow man. So actual magic powers are not on the table. But I recommend there's plenty improv companies around in London at the moment who charge you lots of money to do their basic courses. Super cult-like. You heard it here first. That's what I do. I burn my bridges. I'm just joking, guys. Just joking. Anyway, yes.
Yeah, I'm the same guy, but I'm just doing for a different magazine now called The Broomstick.
Yeah.
It's just final question.
I've given up with the running joke. It never wasn't that great anymore. Just carry on.
It's just a light final question. Where do you get your hats from?
Where do I get my hat? Are they not sweet? Oh, it's sweet and magnificent.
It's lovely. We just want to know where maybe a lot of the readers are interested.
Well, thank you. I'm forever fascinated by the things readers your readers are interested in. Possibly they should untwine the stakes from around their bed and go outside once in a while. But I appreciate the interest. Yes, I buy my hats from an establishment known as Wild Pew and Friends, named after the very famous 90s Saturday morning cartoon about like a bunch of chickens. Yes, and so they have an interesting hat shop which sells hats and also has a floor which is covered in straw and chicken poo. It's a very niche hat shop. You might on a windy day may be able to spot some of the chicken poo just lingering around the brim of my hat there. But I don't recommend looking at that too closely because that would involve looking at my face a little, and no one wants that. Yes. So Wild Pews, go to Wild Pews today.
Okay. Just maybe some other things. I
believe we have about 1 minute before we need to pack up and get out of this village hall. So,
okay.
Yes.
Questions. Do you like peas?
Finally, the question my entire existence has been building up to. Finally, someone asked a decent question. Thank you. They're all right. I mean, next, with a bit of a salt on there, they're perfectly fine. I don't feel. Yes, I don't feel strongly one way or another.
So
possibly.
It just seemed like you'd been waiting for that question, and you built up an answer, but they're just all right.
I know. Now that
That's
I
fine.
think about
It's an answer. Wow. I finally thought I asked a decent question.
You did.
Sorry, peas.
But I'm not decent enough to answer it interestingly.
Peas.
They fell into the sea. The peas fell into the sea. There you go.
Do you like the beach?
I do. It's not my favourite tree. The beach, I prefer the pine or the Scotsman.
Okay, there. Okay, look, I just got like word that there's like wizards and like press all just in this area. Have you guys seen any? Because like we need to just make sure there's no magic.
No, mate. I've seen nothing, mate.
Oh, okay, well, you know, I'll just have a look around here. If you see any of them, then, you know, just let me know.
I will. And that's my show. That's my show.
Okay, well done. Thank you very much there, Tim. Thank you very much. And thank you, Cameron, for joining as well.
Thank you.
Where can we find you on social media?
Oh, right. I still suck a bit at social media. I do have a Facebook page for my other show, which is called Histrionics, which we had a show we did with you guys a few days ago. So I have a Facebook page for Histrionics, and I should get onto. If you look in the near future, if you look for A Wizard Did It on Facebook or Instagram, I should have sorted something out fairly soon.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Tim. Cameron, can we find you anywhere?
Yeah, I'm just Facebook. I'm Cameron Massey, and the same on Instagram as well. But I don't really post a lot, so I might transition to start posting some more improv-related stuff. But yeah, but you can follow me if you want. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you very much there, guys. I'll just remind our audience that in just under half an hour's time, we will have the next quarter-final in the Extreme Improv XStreamed World Championship Tournament. So do check that out at youtube.com/Extreme Improv. And if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button. And we will actually have Tim again later in the festival with another show. So until